MF Doom is another legendary rapper that we lost too soon. And this video is dedicated to showing off just how skilled MF Doom really was. From masterfully juggling complex rhyme schemes, witty wordplay, and cryptic lyrics. Join me as I unmask the mysterious rap style of MF Doom as I break down his song, Doomsday. If you're new here, my name is ColeMize, and I've been helping rappers perfect their rap skills on this channel for the past 10 years. First up, let's talk about Doom's rhyme schemes. Now in this video, you're gonna hear me use the word quadrant a lot. Quadrant just means a 4-bar section of a verse. So the first 4 bars of a verse would be the first quadrant, the second 4 bars of a verse would be the second quadrant, and so on and so forth. Now MF Doom was a master at structuring his rhymes. And while he made sure that his rhymes had really good symmetry by aligning them in time from one bar to the next, and also keeping them going for an even amount of numbers to make them feel complete, this was not always the case. And he was very deliberate about this. For an example, sometimes MF Doom would intentionally break his rhyme schemes. Like on the second verse during the 4th quadrant on bars 1 and 2, they only had internal rhymes within each bar instead of having a rhyme scheme that carries over from one bar to the next. Let's take a listen to how this sounds. And just so you know, today I'm using a beat that I produced called Ground Zero, which I'll link to in the video's description below.
Get out my face, ask about my case, need toothpaste. Professor Mint, monkey style nigga to death to death. And dope fiends still in their teens. Shook niggas turn witness. Real men's mind their own business.
And Doom did a similar thing on verse 3 during the 3rd quadrant, where he broke his rhyme scheme on the 3rd bar, and then he completed the rhyme scheme he already established on bars 1 and 2 on bar 4. And this is a technique that I've actually covered on this channel a lot, and it's one of the most common ways to break a rhyme scheme and make an uneven rhyme scheme feel complete. And here's how it works. Once you complete your rhyme scheme on bar 2, and then start rhyming internally on bar 3, the listener is thinking you just finished one rhyme scheme and have moved on to the next one. You rhyme internally on the 3rd bar to satisfy the listener before reverting back and finishing the rhyme scheme from bars 1 and 2 that the listener just thought you were abandoning.
Known amongst hoes for the bang bang. Known amongst foes for flow without no talking orangutans. Only gin and tang, guzzle out a rusty tin can. Me and this mic is like yin and yang.
Also during the same verse, Doom successfully pulled off another odd-numbered rhyme scheme. And he did this during the 5th quadrant. Bar 1 is an internal rhyme, and the next 3 bars is a rhyme scheme. In order to make this sound as good as possible, Doom carried over his internal rhyme of E sounds into the following bar with the use of speed, and kept this internal rhyming going for the remaining 2 bars of this quadrant with the use of please on bar 3 and keys on bar 4.
But then she has a sexy voice, sound like Jazzy Joyce. So I turned it up faster than a speeding knife. Strong enough to please a wife, able to drop today's math in the 48 keys of life.
The main takeaway is this: while keeping your rhyme schemes even is important for maintaining symmetry and making your rhyme schemes feel complete, it can also be cool to create some odd-numbered rhyme schemes within your quadrants by rhyming only internally for one of the bars. Try doing this by using an internal rhyme on the 1st or the 3rd bar, and try rhyming with your internal rhyme that was used to break the rhyme scheme to create an additional rhyme scheme. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like so YouTube knows to share it with other people. Another interesting thing about MF Doom's rhymes is they don't always line up in time. And this isn't a mistake. This is 100% intentional. We typically want our rhymes to line up in time with each other to make our rhymes and our rap flow more cohesive and easy to follow. But once you've learned to do that, it's fun to push the boundaries and distort your rhyme schemes as well to make them more interesting. And this just gives them a different feeling. So it's one of those things where you quote, learn the rules, and then you learn how to break the rules. Now let's look at MF Doom's rhymes from a different perspective and track them in musical time to see exactly where they're landing. On the 3rd quadrant of verse 1, Doom created a multi-syllable rhyme scheme with the words responsibility and hostility. Hostility is placed about half of a beat later, which causes the T part of this rhyme scheme to carry over into the beginning of the next bar.
Metal fist terrorist, claim responsibility. Broken household name usually set in hostility. What is MF, you silly? I like to take men to the end for 2 milli.
Another place where this occurs is on verse 3 of the 5th quadrant. Knife, wife, life, and mic all land in slightly different places. Also, his internal rhyme scheme that uses speed, please, and keys land in slightly different places as well.
But then she has a sexy voice, sound like Jazzy Joyce. So I turned it up faster than a speeding knife. Strong enough to please a wife, able to drop today's math in the 48 keys of life. Cut the crap for us rap, Touch the mic, get the same thing an Arab would do to you for stealing.
Another interesting thing about Doom is this. Sometimes us rappers think it's wrong to use the same word in close proximity with each other, especially if it's a part of a rhyme scheme. Well, MF Doom did not feel this way at all. He did this a lot actually. During verse 1, he used around twice for his rhyme scheme.
I used to cop a lot, but never cop no drop. Hold mics like ponytails tight and bobble ops. Stop, stick around, come through and dig the sound of the fly brown 606 cycle who throws a dick around.
During verse 2, he did this even more with the use of pop junk and pop trunk.
Cell number 17, I'm under the top bunk. I say this not to be mean, was bad luck a pop junk. Pop the trunk on C-Cypherpunk, leave him left scrape.
He also did this on verse 2, quadrant 2 with the word who and also the word well.
Pop the trunk on C-Cypherpunk, leave him left scrape. God forbid, if ain't no escape, blame MF tape. Definition, super villain. A killer who loved children, one who is well skilled in destruction as well as building.
And he does this several more times throughout the song, but you get the gist. The main takeaway is this: it's okay to use the same words in close proximity of each other, even if it's a part of your rhyme scheme. Another thing about MF Doom's rhymes is he loves to use alliteration. Alliteration is when we use words close together that have the same beginning sound on those words, such as blue baseball bat. These rhymes are less obvious to the listener, but they make what you're saying sound a lot more catchy. He did this in verse 1 on quadrant 3 with T sounds.
I like to take men's to the end for 2 milli.
He does this again on the 4th quadrant of verse 1 with D sounds.
That's an audio daily double.
On verse 2, quadrant 3, he does it again with T sounds.
My city seller teaches the tribes to be trifer.
And on verse 2, quadrant 3, he also uses a lot of clusters of alliterations, with L sounds on Live Lifer, P sounds on Pied Piper, and D sounds on Dollar and a Dime, and K sounds on Collar and Crime.
I'm trading science fiction with my man, a live lifer. A Pied Piper, holler, a rhyme, a dollar and a dime. Do his thing, ring around the white collar crime.
So the key takeaway here is this: just try to work a little bit more alliteration into your lyrics if you want them to sound a little more catchy. And in addition to MF Doom's in-rhyme schemes, he juggled a lot of internal rhymes and internal rhyme schemes. And just so you know, a scheme is when a rhyme carries over from one bar to the next, and then an internal rhyme is when you only rhyme within that bar and that doesn't carry over to the next bar. On verse 1, during his first quadrant, he has a multi-syllable in-rhyme scheme going with dig the sound and dick around, which he also rhymes internally with stick around. And he also chose to rhyme with the last sound on this rhyme scheme with brown. He also created another internal multi-syllable rhyme scheme by using the eh sounds from his already established rhyme scheme followed by O sounds. He also created an I internal rhyme with fly and sigh, and he created an internal rhyme scheme with through and who. On top of that, he's using a lot of alliteration here with his S sounds. Just within these 2 bars alone, he's juggling 4 rhyme schemes with the eh, the e, the ound, and the oo sounds, and 2 different internal rhymes with the O and the I sounds. If you include his alliteration, he's rhyming a total of 25 times just within these 2 bars.
Stop, stick around, come through and dig the sound of the fly brown 606 cycle who throws a dick around.
On verse 2 of his first quadrant, he has a multi-syllable in-rhyme scheme with section and check-in. In addition to that, he has 2 more internal rhyme schemes with E sounds and O sounds. On the following 2 bars, he switches his multi-syllable in-rhyme scheme to top bunk and pop junk, and then created a new internal rhyme scheme with teen and be mean.
I wrote this one in BCDCO section. If you don't believe me, go get bagged and checked in. Cell number 17, I'm under the top bunk. I say this not to be mean, was bad luck a pop junk.
On verse 3 of his first quadrant, his end rhyme is womb and tomb, which he also rhymes with doom at the beginning of the bar. He also created an internal rhyme scheme with the sense and the eh sounds.
Doomsday, ever since the womb till I'm back to the essence, read it off the tomb.
Within the same verse on the third quadrant, his end rhyme is using ain sounds. He also created an internal rhyme scheme with O sounds and continues rhyming with this sound throughout the second bar. He also repeats the words known, amongst, and for on both lines.
Known amongst hoes for the bang bang, known amongst foes for flow without no talking orangutans.
The main takeaway here is this: if you're only using end rhymes, things can get a little bit predictable and boring pretty quickly. Also, don't only rhyme with your end rhyme in other parts of your bars. Try juggling some different internal rhymes and rhyme schemes that use different sounds to give your rhymes more variety and flexibility on what words that you have to choose from, which gives you more freedom to say what you really want to say. One thing rappers struggle with is learning how to smoothly transition in between two different rhyme schemes. One way that MF Doom makes smooth transitions into new rhyme schemes is by allowing that rhyme scheme to carry over into the beginning of the bar where he's going to change that rhyme scheme. He does this on verse 1 with the word bound.
Stop, stick around, come through and dig the sound of the fly brown 606 cycle. Who throws a dick around? Bound to go 3 flat, came to destroy rap.
He does this on verse 2 with pop trunk and punk.
Cell number 17 up under the top bunk. I say this not to be mean, was bad luck a pop junk. Pop the trunk on C-Cypher punk, leave him left scrape, God forbid. If ain't no escape, blame him left tape.
He does this again on verse 2 with Pod Piper.
My city seller teaches the trife to be trifer. I'm trading science fiction with my man, a live lifer. A Pied Piper, holler a rhyme, a dollar and a dime. Do his thing, ring around the white collar crime.
And again on verse 2 with the word difference.
And dope fiends still in their teens. Shook niggas turn witness. Real men's mind their own business. That's the difference between sissy pissy rappers is double dutch. How come I hold a microphone double clutch?
And he does this again on verse 3 of the 4th quadrant with the words clang and pay.
Known amongst hoes for the bang bang. Known amongst foes for flow without no talking orangutans. Only gin and tang. Guzzle out a rusty tin can. Me and this mic is like yin and yang. Clang, crime don't pay. Listen you, it's like me holding up the line at the kissing booth.
So when you're trying to transition out of one rhyme scheme into another one, try carrying that rhyme scheme over into the next bar. Another thing that I found interesting about this song is it doesn't have a typical song structure. There's pretty much 2 different types of hooks in this song. There's a melodic hook that's being sung by Pebbles, and there's a rap hook that's being rapped by MF Doom. And also when he recorded this song, he didn't just record hook 1 and then copy and paste those vocals to the other hook section. He recorded both hooks separately. And hook 1 and 2 have different timings on the words who's to say. The first hook is a little bit earlier. On the second hook, it's a little bit more late, has a little bit more swing, and feels a little bit more laid back.
Either unmarked or engraved, hey, who's to say? Either unmarked or engraved, hey, who's to say?
Also, each verse has a different length. Verse 1 is 16 bars, verse 2 is 20 bars, and verse 3 is 24 bars. Apart from MF Doom's insane rhyming skills, one of the most intriguing things about his raps is his cryptic style of writing. He loves to say things without actually saying them, which is very artistic. This allows his audience to ponder on the meaning of things and also at times to come up with their own interpretation of what he's saying. He also uses a lot of slang terminology, which further adds to the mystique and crypticness of his lyrics. Let's take a look at some of these examples, and keep in mind this is my interpretation. In verse 1 he said,
Femstat cats get kidnapped.
Femstat is a vaginal cream. So he's cryptically calling rappers vaginas.
Metal fist terrorists claim responsibility.
Metal Fist is a reference to his alter ego for making beats called Metal Fingers.
Broken household name usually set in hostility. What is MF, you silly?
Here MF kind of has a double entendre, MF being the first initials of his rap name, but also MF is in mother effer.
I like to take men's to the end for 2 milli.
Men's to the end could be interpreted as unaliving somebody. And this is also the beginning of a Jeopardy theme, which I'll circle back around to here in a little bit.
That's an audio daily double.
Daily double is a clue in the game of Jeopardy that's hidden. He's saying that he's being cryptic and leaving you clues behind in his rhymes.
Rappers need to fall off just to save me the trouble, yo.
This line reinforces his previous line where he was basically talking about unaliving rappers. He's saying just do it yourself and save him the trouble.
On Doomsday, ever since the womb till I'm back where my brother went, that's what my tumor say.
During the first part of this song's rap hook, I believe here that Doomsday is meant to imply 2 different days. Doom's birthday and his death day. When he says, till I'm back where my brother went, he's talking about reuniting in the afterlife with his deceased brother who was killed by a car while crossing a street 6 years prior to the release of this song.
Right above my government doomlay, either unmarked or engraved, hey, who's to say?
Here he's making a reference to his government name, which is Daniel Dumoulin. His rap name Doom was extracted from his last name. He then goes on to say that he's not certain if his grave will have the engraving he just described or if it'll be unmarked. An unmarked grave could signify that he died alone or his family didn't have the funds to pay for an engraving. Or it could be because he was undecided whether to have an engraved tombstone or one that was unmarked to stay hidden, kind of like him hiding behind the mask.
I wrote this one in BCDC O section.
BCDC stands for Baltimore County Detention Center, where MF Doom was actually incarcerated for a period of time.
If you don't believe me, go get bagged and checked in. Cell number 17 up under the top bunk.
Bag is slang for getting arrested, and he's saying that he wrote this verse underneath the top bunk of the jail cell. And if you don't believe him, go get arrested and go look for yourself.
Pop the trunk on C Cypherpunk, leave him left scraped.
Here, pop the trunk is slang for pulling out a gun on somebody, and C Cypherpunk is him cryptically spelling out the word cop. Cypher is the number 0 in the supreme mathematics used by the 5% nation. MF Doom also makes reference to supreme mathematics shortly after this part when he mentions number 8, which is build and destroy.
Definition super villain, a killer who loved children, one who is well skilled in destruction as well as building. I'm trading science fiction with my man, a live lifer.
When he says they're trading science fiction, I take this as him talking about them basically sharing stories or lies with each other. And live lifer is somebody who's spending the rest of their life behind bars.
A Pied Piper, holla, a rhyme, a dollar and a dime.
Pied Piper is someone from the Middle Ages who was a rat catcher hired by the town to lure rats away with his musical instrument, which was in the form of a pipe. When citizens refused to pay him, he then used his instrument on the children of the town, leading them away as he did the rats. Pied Piper is basically a metaphor for somebody who's able to attract a following through charisma and false promises.
Do his thing, ring around the white collar crime. Get out my face, asking about my case, need toothpaste.
This is likely a guy who's serving a life sentence and who's trying to get information on other people's cases to rat on them to possibly lessen his sentence. And also, he has stank breath.
Touch the mic, get the same thing an Arab would do to you for stealing.
In other words, he's saying if you touch his mic, he's going to cut your hand off. The main takeaway here is this: you don't have to be so on the nose and so obvious about the meaning of everything that you're saying. It's good to keep some things on the surface that everybody will understand, but it's also good to leave some things that are a little bit more cryptic and let people discover the meaning themselves. And also consider using slang or unusual phrasing to make something that's common more interesting and have more character. Another thing interesting about this song is Doom's use of themes, and he uses several themes throughout his verses. Verse 1 is more braggadocious and kind of bragging about his rap skills, and there's also that Jeopardy theme that I mentioned earlier in there. Verse 2 primarily has a prison theme to it, and verse 3 predominantly has a romance theme to it, and there's also a Superman theme there towards the end. Superman was known back in the day for the following phrase: he's faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman! And Doom played off of this with the following lines:
so I turned it up faster than a speeding knife, strong enough to please a wife.
And with one more line as he ended the song.
It's a word, no a name, MF the super villain.
Now, when it comes to punchlines, this song didn't have a ton of punchlines in them, which is cool. Not every song has to have a ton of punchlines for it to be an awesome song. But I had to highlight this one because the first time I heard it, it literally just made me laugh out loud.
Clang, crime don't pay. Listen, you, it's like me holding up the line at the kissing booth. I took her back to the truck, she was uncouth, spitting all out the sunroof through her missing tooth.
Another thing I found interesting about Doom is how he chose to phrase things. Doom wasn't afraid to phrase something in a way that it's just normally not said. And this technique is often used to say the same thing in fewer or more words in order to get your rhyme schemes lined up with each other from bar to bar, or to tighten up the structuring of your cadence from bar to bar as well. In this case, Doom typically used this technique to shorten his phrases and say the same thing in fewer syllables. And another factor that plays into this is the actual tempo of the instrumental. This instrumental is 95.4 beats per minute, which is on the faster side of rap instrumentals, which basically means that you're traveling across these bars pretty quickly, so you don't have as much time to cram them with as many words. So you have to be a little bit more concise about what you're saying. So the trick here is to either say the same thing in fewer syllables, or don't treat each bar like it has to be a full thought or a sentence, and give yourself multiple bars to maybe complete a thought. And here's a couple of examples of when MF Doom shortened the normal wording of phrases. In verse 1, he said,
bound to go 3 plat, instead
of saying bound to go triple platinum. In verse 2, he said,
COs make rounds, never have ox found on shakedown, lockdown, wet dreams of Fox Brown.
Ox is prison slang for a knife. Normally you would phrase this like, never has an ox been found, or an ox has never been found. And he removed the Y from Foxy Brown, and he had room to say Foxy, but he likely chose not to in order to stick with the one-syllable ox sounds he was using during his rhyme scheme. Also, he said,
pop the trunk on C Cypherpunk, leave him left scraped.
And this would be normally phrased like this: pop the trunk on a C Cypherpunk, leave him left scraped. And one more time when he said this.
God forbid, if ain't no escape, blame MF tape.
And normally you would phrase this like this. God forbid, if there ain't no escape, blame an MF tape. The main takeaway here is this. Sometimes you may need to rephrase something to get your rhyme schemes to line up with each other better, or to get your rap flow to sound as you intended. And speaking on rap flow, I'm gonna be breaking down MF Doom's rap flow in my next video, so stay tuned for that. And if you want copies to all the graphics that I use in this video, they're available right now to everybody who's on my mailing list. Simply click on free goodies in the last email that I sent out and scroll down to the rap sheet section. And if you're not already subscribed to my mailing list, you can do so in the video description below, and you'll get instant access to these graphics and a lot more free goodies. Again, my name is ColeMize with ColeMizeStudios.com, where I strive to make you a better rapper now. And always remember, when it comes to rapping, there's no rules, there's only techniques. Peace.
Hey man, you see that subscribe button right there? Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Oh, and don't forget the bell icon. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Hey, I know you see that like button, right? Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. And look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, today I'm gonna kill it, kill it.